If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of The Ron and Don Show, and we are back in the Team Lisa.com studios.
Team Lisa with a Y.
He's Ron, I'm Don. What do we have for the real estate-only listeners today, Ron?
Well, I was going to a Mariner game. I took Bob and Sandy, one of our clients, to a Mariners game.
Bobby!
Bob and Sandy. So I'm walking to the Mariners game, and these flyers are plastered everywhere downtown. And it says, fight for national rent control, build millions of affordable homes, vote for this politician who I'm not going to say her name, but you can see it if you're watching this on the YouTubes.
Boy, she can win, too.
And so I was reading that, and then we had this story from New York where they just froze rent control. And so I wanted to dig into this and see, A, what the platform is.
Hang on, why don't you want to mention her name?
Well, we can, if you want to. I just don't want to give her any zhuzh because I don't, after reading into this, I don't think this is a viable plan.
She's not on the left. She's way to the left. And with what we just saw in New York and then what we just saw in Colorado, we see people, like there was a 30-year incumbent in Colorado that is considered a progressive candidate. And the candidate that came in that was left of her, 29-year-old attorney who has never run for office before, just took her out at the knees. It'll be interesting to see if we're going to see more of that in the elections coming up, because that's going to favor the Republicans, because there's going to be a lot of people that are independent and then in the middle going, hey, the word progressive scares me on the left, and I don't want to be left of a progressive Democrat. And Shama Swan is certainly left of a progressive Democrat, and we've seen her, march on the mayor's office. We see her back. She backed out of politics for a moment. She was waiting for this season, and she's running for U.S. Congress. She'll be very electable. She'll be very, very electable because she'll be able to take
smart.
out.
She's a good communicator, but when I did the research, we'll be interested if you agree with the policy. So I looked into her platform, and here's what she is calling for. And because it's Congress, she's calling for national rent control. So what they want to do is have a rental cap. So if you are a tenant, this is all about tenants. If you're a tenant, your rent cannot be increased beyond what is tied. This is going to be tied to inflation with a maximum of 10%. So your rent could never go up in any term more than 10%, but Sawant wants to keep it tied to inflation. So if inflation was 2.1%, then your rent increase could be 2.1%.
Because already in the city of Seattle, there is rent control somewhat. As far as you can't go in and just
raise it 30%.
You can't do it. But to your point, it's not tied to inflation. So
tied to inflation.
Every 6 months, as long as you send a notice, you can raise it.
This is to all units, no exception. So it doesn't. The person that owns one rental property is treated the same as the XYZ corporation that has 5,000 rental units. It's all the same, and so it doesn't matter who is the landlord. They're all treated the same. Then they're going to try to increase renters' rights. Many of this exists in Seattle already, but she wants to take this nationwide. And if you haven't been following this or you're not a landlord, you're probably not aware. They want to cap the late fees to $10 a month. So if you were getting $3,000 in rent, prior to this legislation, you could do up to, I think it was 10% of the rent per day to a maximum of 10% of the month. So if it was $3,000, you could do $30 a day, and it would cap out at $300 late fee. And this is to protect the landlord who's not getting paid. So the rent is due, the landlord's already paid the mortgage for that month and then hasn't received any rents in. And so this accrues, trying to put pressure on that tenant to pay on time. But this legislation says it's $10 maximum a month, no matter how late the tenant is. You have to give 6 months notice before you could increase the rent. And it can't, and then also that funnels into the point number one. And there's eviction bans in the wintertime. And also if the tenant has kids in school, they want to have eviction bans. So even if they're not paying rent and you're 2 months into a school year, this plan would say, hey, that tenant has kids in school. You can't disrupt the family. Where are they gonna? They're already engaged in these classes. So the eviction has to happen when the school year ends. So in the interim, they're saying that the landlord is paying the mortgage, could be for months on end before that happens. And then the final thing,
and you don't already have to give notice of increase on the eviction bans. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that the government isn't going to take that on, and that mom and pop landlords like me or you are going to have to take that on. Can't afford it. You just can't afford it because with property taxes, oh my gosh, property taxes and insurance alone, it has taken a lot of landlords out there to the brink. And it's getting very, very difficult when you get, because here in the city of Seattle already, if you're on a month-to-month lease, everyone thinks a month-to-month lease, that gives the landlord control of the contract. It doesn't. A month-to-month lease
goes back to renter's rights.
Gives the renter, yeah. And
so
there's a 1-800 number here that you can dial, and many people do. And when they don't want to leave, and Ron, you've experienced this, and I've experienced too, they don't leave, and it ends up financially killing you. And it's usually the people that are not taking care of your property either. They're not taking care of it.
So the final thing, and this is sort of mixed messages, build millions of affordable homes. In Seattle, they're trying to accomplish that through, if you remember a couple of years ago, they passed the Amazon tax. There was a tax on high income earners. And I would just point this out before we get into the other side here. How's that working so far for Seattle? Have we seen a deluge of affordable housing units?
Well, they're not building anything anymore in South Lake Union. You see some of those parking lots or some of the buildings that were going to come down where they were going to build some Amazon buildings. All that building is going on the east side. So if it's not going on the east side, have you seen the new national headquarters going up in Nashville right now for Starbucks?
I have not.
It's beautiful, 7 stories. And that just didn't happen overnight. So they've been working on that plan. You're going to see more of that. You saw Boeing decentralize, end up saying, hey, we're going to have our main offices in Chicago, and then we're going to build planes in the South. So we will see more and more of that. And if the push isn't a push out of state, the push is to the other side of the lake. And that's that is going to hurt Seattle, and it is hurting Seattle.
So I went into this. I want to be open-minded. I think there is legitimate pain right now. We talked about this in last episode. There's legitimate pain for renters and people that want to buy real estate. I don't want to pretend like there's not. And so the economy and the economic realities of buying a house and owning your own property it's more difficult than ever. So I don't want to pretend that this doesn't resonate with a lot of people, because it does. But what does the research say? So if you actually go and you look at these policies and you study these policies in an independent way, what are the conclusions? Well, they did some major studies because they had rent control policies that went into San Francisco with legislation along these lines, and they've studied it. And so what happens on the positive side for this group of folks, the displacement of renters does go down. So when you put the rental caps in and you freeze that rent, displacement of renters does go down by 20%. Here's the thing that they don't say, though. Also, concurrent with that, the rental supply drops by 15%, and the rents are raised by 5%. So this happened to me. You mentioned I had this situation. I had a person that stopped paying rent. I had to go through the eviction process and a tremendous amount of damage done to a property. What was the end result of that? I sold that house. I said, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this again. This has been so difficult for me as a mom and pop, or more of a pop and pop operation, of trying to pay for all of this. So I still had to make my mortgage payments every month on that property. And then I had to pay lawyers to go through the eviction process and then pay for the rehab of the property. I just sold it. So now where there used to be a rental unit, that rental unit's gone, and it's now an owner. So this is the unintended consequence of freezing rent, is the supply drops by 15%. There's only 2% of economists in America that have studied this that say that freezing the rent actually helps. 2%. So people whose job it is to study economic policy and to study economic realities, only 2 out of 100 go, yep, that's a good idea. And so here's where the messages get mixed, is everyone agrees that we need to build more homes and that we have an undersupply of homes. All economists agree on that. But the reality is It's the local government, not national government. Local government controls building regulations. Local government controls the permitting process. Local government controls land use. And the local government, at least here in Seattle, is the biggest landholder that we have in Seattle, is the city of Seattle. They own the most land. And so this is not in my opinion, this is not a policy that is sustainable. Because if you want more affordable housing, look in the mirror. Don't try to say that all units are the same, all landlords are the same. I get it if you have an affordable housing building with 500 units in it and 5% of those are in arrears. That corporation can probably absorb those costs and maybe work with a renter's right program. If you have one rental unit, and that's your only rental unit, and they haven't paid a rent in 6 months, that is destroying that mom and pop landowner. And what ends up happening is they just sell it.
Yeah. And to put a bow around that, in order to have a healthy economy, well, you see a lot of apartments and condos going up, and then you see retail down below. You and I, in fact, I dated her decades ago. Laura Miller is the #1 commercial agent, especially when it comes to retail spaces. Putting in a coffee shop, putting in a bar, putting in a restaurant, putting in a yoga studio. I had dinner with her the other night. I said, how is it going in the city of Seattle? She said, it is not. She said, we have spaces open everywhere. I said, well, where are people going? She said, they're going to the east side. If anybody is building out a retail space right now, they're doing it on the east side because the government's over there, they want you to build. In fact, if you're going to build something in the city of Kirkland, you can go in and sit down with someone before you even start the permitting process to see if it's even viable.
Without an appointment.
Without an appointment.
Walk in.
You can do that in Kirkland. You can do that in Bellevue. You certainly can do that in Snohomish. You can do that in Pierce County. You cannot do that in the city of Seattle. You can't get anyone on the phone. But boy, so a neighbor turns you in because you didn't permit something correctly. They will come and red tag your house, as you know. They will red tag your house and they will shut your operation down for a year. And then trying to get someone to come out and reinspect what you just fixed is next to impossible, or to get any advice as well. So people that work in city government here that reflect the city of Seattle do not do a good job in helping small business. Small business is really the propeller to make all this work, everything that we're talking about, even coming back to affordable housing, because you want to have affordable housing for the person that's working in the restaurant or working in the coffee shop or working in the Pilates studio and those businesses. So it's not just big business. Everyone's talking about, well, there goes Starbucks. Hey, you know what? There goes, look in the Seattle Times of all the small businesses that are closing and leaving. If they're surviving, they're either moving out of state or they're moving to the east side or Pierce and Snohomish County where they're welcome.
So affordability, rent control, that sort of thing is going to be a lightning rod this political season. Like, I would encourage people, take this episode, send it to someone, engage with a conversation about this, because this message, we saw one in New York, and that people are going to start to fall in line and go, I'm going to adopt that message. I am going to use it in my progressive city
to get elected.
And I'm going to try to get elected. So I'm not saying that we don't need rent situation to be modified or housing to be built. I agree with that. But this methodology has been proven to get these results. 20% of the people are going to be spared, but then the housing supply goes down, rent goes up. It does not do what you think it's going to do.
Yeah.
And so do some research, read this stuff, and if you're tempted to go, well, I'm going to vote that's my one issue, that's what I'm voting for, just buyer beware. If you vote for that, it is not going to have the consequences that you think it's going to have.
Yeah. And short-term rentals out there don't fall into any of these equations. A lot of people stay in the short-term rental game because it keeps them out of this nightmare. I might be one of them. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening to the Ron and Don Show. He's Ron and I'm Don, by the way. We forgot to introduce ourselves.
Hi.
Yeah. Coming up, 1,000 shows. What are we doing to celebrate?
Well, we're going to do a Ron and Don sit-down with you. If you just go reach out to me at ron@ronandon.com or go to ronandonsitdown.com.
Well, we just had a big party in my backyard. Maybe we bring the mariachi band back.
I don't think either of us has the energy to put on a big 1,000 show. Let's just do a 1,000 show.
Sounds good. Matt, you'll be here for it, right?
I think I'm busy that day.
Okay, very good. Anyway, We'll figure out a way to celebrate it. Maybe you guys should let us know. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Do you still Twitter?
No, I closed that account when Elon bought it.
People are too angry.
Yeah, it's a cesspool.
By the way, real quick, I'm not watching political people anymore online, I've decided. I'm watching people dance.
Okay.
I'm watching people dance, and I'm watching old men sail.
That sounds like a good
I'm
one.
watching a guy out of London right now, and he just expects to die on his sailboat at some time. He's just sailing around the world. In his YouTube page is Old Man Sailing.
Good for him.
And every night he ends it, and he's like, I'm going to go for 11 hours sleep, and I'm going to put some rum in my tea, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good for him.
Isn't that great?
I love that.
Yeah. Ron and I are going to put some rum in our tea, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. You've been listening to the Ron and Don Show all night on the Ron and Don Radio Network. Check it out, Old Man Sailing. Everybody's dancing on the internet, too.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.